Hi Mark, thanks for your answer. It's good to hear a Christian whose views on church and state broadly align with mine. As for your question, it was, what is the biggest hindrance to humanity living in harmony with each other, and do you think there's a motto or a theory or maybe a rule that if taken on board by the whole world would really sort of help humanity live in peace with each other? I'm not sure I can attain world peace in one video, but I'll give it a shot. First of all though, I want to bring up the dangers of utopian thinking. When you look at the great travesties of the 20th century, many of them were down to utopian thinking. Hitler had his Aryan, pseudo-Christian pagan utopia, Stalin and Mao had their communist utopias, and they all did horrific things to their own populations and to others. And perhaps it's easy to see why such thinking can lead to atrocities. After all, if what you're seeking is a utopia, the absolute perfect way for anyone and everyone to be forever and ever, then what cost wouldn't you pay for it? Against the potential benefits of infinite happiness, what cost is too high? So when we talk about mottos, rules and theories that might help humanity live in harmony, we have to be very careful about straying into utopian territory, because that way demons lie. As for the biggest issues facing humanity, I'm not entirely sure. Many of our conflicts arise from the different needs of self-interested groups or individuals, but I don't want to say that self-interest is necessarily evil. If you always behave totally selflessly, you'd never get anything done. And whilst you'd make everyone else happy, you would probably be exploited and upset yourself. And self-interest can itself be a source of altruism. You might give money to a homeless man hoping that, were you in the same position, you'd want someone to do the same to you. You may not even consciously think that, but if pressed on why you did it, that might be your response. There's also the so-called cycles of violence, also known as the Hobbesian trap. This is when, in the absence of governing authorities, revenge fuels revenge. You hurt me, so, to stop you doing it again, I hurt you. It could end there, but then maybe you decide I hurt you more than you hurt me, or that you want to prevent me hurting you again, and it spirals down from there. Fortunately, we have a government, law and police who steps in and de-escalates the violence. Scale the hurt up to conflicts where hundreds and thousands of people die, and no one really has any authority over belligerents, and you see the problem. Add into the mix tribal, religious or political ties and things get even worse. If all this sounds horrendously oversimplistic, it's because it is. Life is magnitudes more complicated. And that's why I don't think there's a single theory, motto or rule that can solve it all. Some mottos are hilariously inadequate even. Take for instance one that works in many situations, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It often works, but what if you like something the other person doesn't? What if we add a single person into the mix who doesn't get this rule? What do we do to them? Others, like feel-good single words of love and forgiveness, simply fail to capture the complexity of human conflict. Love is why many people go to war, and forgiveness can let tyrants walk free. I do think there is an assumption we can start from, on which we can build our answer, however. It might sound incredibly obvious, or what Dan Dennett would term a deepity, but we have to respect reality. We have to look at what the problems actually are, not what we think they are. Because if we offer a solution to a problem which isn't there, we're never going to solve the real problem. Seeing as you and I talk often about religion, let's talk about the fallen angel idea for humanity. Humans were perfect, or had everything they needed, but they fell from grace, something like sin or evil entered the world, and that's the source of our problems. Yet this simply doesn't seem to be the case. Much of the bad stuff in the world comes from the complex interactions of biologically motivated self-interest, love of your family over your neighbour, limits to the circle of empathy, chance breakdowns of communication, and endless other things. And so when people offer their religion, their God, their saviour as the solution for the problem, it can't help but miss the mark, because it's an answer to the wrong problem. Similarly, if you think the reason the economy is in trouble because of excessive government spending and implement a policy of austerity which hurts people, you're not going to solve the problem because that's not why the economy was in trouble. I think much of the issues we have today are not so much down to bad solutions, but misidentifying the problem and implementing a good solution for the wrong problem. If all this sounds a little confused, can I just remind you that you basically asked me to attain world peace in a 5-minute video. Now my question for you. I've noticed, as have many humanists, that the religious tend to dominate the right wing of politics. This is particularly prevalent in America, but leaders like David Cameron and ex-leaders like Nigel Farage have expressed their Christianity in this country. Without making any assumptions as to which of the left or right of politics is the good side, I want to ask, if Christianity compels you to be self-sacrificing and perhaps more selfless, as you said in your last video, why do you think Christians tend to inhabit the more self-interested right wing of politics than the perhaps more egalitarian left? I look forward to your answer.